So this review was a year in the making because I couldn't find the damn book. Nobody had this thing, and I don't care enough about it to order it. Hell, I wasn't even going to order it online, and it was easy to find there. I actually stumbled onto it. I was looking through trades and I saw this tiny sliver of white tucked between some books. So I pulled it out, and it's only 80 pages. And as usual, the story is a fucking mess. Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa. I don't know what to do with you. So, Black as Fuck, America's Sweetheart is supposed to be a young adult comic, but it's really 3 comics in one. First, let's deal with the name. This is supposed to be a book for middle school and junior high kids, so you put as fuck in the title. I know this is a branding thing because you can't trademark or copyright the word black, but you really should have thought it out more because using as fuck in the title looks immature and amateur. Technically, those are accurate descriptions of Kwanzaa and his work, but you could at least try to fool people. It's just not clever. And then we've got the book itself, and like I said, it's 3 books in one. It starts out like a kid's book, like one of those with the gold binding on the side. That's how it reads, except with a heaping dose of Soviet-style propaganda. The art, which is good, really doesn't help though. It really does look and read like communist posters. Then there's a sudden tone shift where it becomes a regular action comic. It really does come out of nowhere. One page, Eli is saving people with the Stalinist music in the background. The next, literally the next page, it's a throwdown fight. Eli ends up meeting up with Kareem, the blank slate from the original series, and we get this dialogue where he calls her a bougie bitch, but the last word kinda gets cut off. Then it falls back into propaganda-style narrative, complete with the obligatory white people be racist nonsense, and then becomes fucking Man of Steel. I'm not joking, Kwanzaa literally lifts the destruction porn from the end of Man of Steel and just plops it into a story. So we go from rated G to PG-13, then back to G, straight to rated R. Where are your editors? I don't know who this story is for. It's not for kids, even though the art style will totally make kids want to read it. It's not for teens because they're not going to like the baby talk tone the book starts with. It's not for adults because the shifting narrative takes you out of the story. The whole time I was reading this, I couldn't figure out who this was for. What I did get is that Kwanzaa had a message, several actually, and he was going to cram all them motherfuckers in this book. Then a third of the way into the book, he remembered they like shonen battle manga, so he threw that in too. But the wokeness would not be stopped, so it rolled up in a lavender Cadillac, stepped out in that crushed velvet suit with the feather in the hat, strolled on over to the action scenes, pimp slapped the shit out of him and said, "Dig deeper," and it just exploded into a mess of black nationalism. I don't know who's supposed to like this story, which is probably why nobody talked about it. That end, no one could find a damn thing. On the plus side, the art is absolutely gorgeous. Jennifer Johnson just brings it. It's 80 pages, so there are a couple of panels that look rushed or unfinished, but when she's on, goddamn is she on. Setting aside that for most of the book, Eli, aka Good Girl, looks like a boy, like a very effeminate boy, and it's even weirder because supposedly straight Kareem kinda has a hots for her. Johnson's really good at visual storytelling though, and her storybook style works well with this format. It's a style that's pretty popular online and in animation circles. There's really not a boring page in this book. Even when nothing's happening, Johnson's color work just pulls you in. Even in places where the work looks unfinished or rushed, it's done in a controlled way. You know she knows what she's doing, so even if the color is just thrown on the page, it's artistically done. And she's got a fantastic use of color, very expressive, fitting in with the mood and tone of the story at that point. It's just solid work. Nothing to complain about. I mean, I would buy some of these pages as prints. They're that good, and honestly, if you can find this book, you should buy it. For the art. Don't read it though, because the story is a mess. So, Kwanzaa had this idea. What if only black people had superpowers? It's not a very clever idea, especially since in the original story, black people have had superpowers since the 1500s, meaning non-powered white folks with swords and muskets managed to enslave and knock off X-Men. It makes no fucking sense. No sense. And somehow, through 400 years of slavery, Jim Crow, and modern police, no one discovered niggas had powers. Just enslave my black ass. Yeah, I can take my dick out and use it like a bullwhip, and I've got superpowers. But fuck it, just enslave me. I won't fight back. Lynch my black ass. Go on, get my brother too. I can turn my skin into fucking diamond and just shake my body and get out of this, but no, just strangle my ass. I'm gonna go and vote, and you gonna ask me how many bubbles are in a bar of soap. Well, let me show you. No, fuck it. I just keep it to myself. Oh, you gonna tase my black ass? For real? Well, excuse me. Just 1 second. Chidori. Deal with that, motherfucker. No, not gonna do that. This is the world Kwanzaa creates, where people with superpowers somehow manage to never get found out and never use their powers to protect themselves. Totally improbable. So then, at the end of the original Black miniseries, the whole world finds out about superpowered black people, and that's where this book picks up. We find out that Eli Franklin, whose parents claim a stork dropped her off in a wheat field, yes, he is that lazy, has all of Superman's powers. She's raised by this white family in Montana where she feels alone because she's got powers and is apparently the only black person in Montana, which actually sounds probable. Her dad conveniently works for the government, specifically the Homeland Agency for Ulterior Soldiers, and he runs back to Washington to deal with the Negro Muerte fallout, because that's what you're calling the event from the original Black series. Black Death. Okay. So then we get this ridiculous montage of all this white hatred against black people out of fear that those with powers will be dangerous, which would be fine if there was anything presented in the story to explain the fear. There isn't. Everything I just talked about is in the first 3 pages of the book. So why are they afraid of superpowered black people? Why would they beat up a 14-year-old street magician because they thought he had powers? What has scared them shitless? Is it the Negro Muerte? I'm never going to be able to say that without laughing. It's just so stupid. The thing where the black dude in charge, who's basically Kwanzaa, gives a totally racist speech about how he's gonna go full black Nazi on white people? Because if it's that, their fear is totally rational. If it's not, you have to show us why. Why are these people acting this way? I know it's because Kwanzaa thinks all white people hate black people, but you have to explain it in the context of the story. It's never there. There's no explanation why these people react so negatively to this news outside of the event where the black supremacists talked about taking over the world, which is also not mentioned in this story. So we find out that Eli has this metal ball that her adoptive parents say her birth parents left for her. And out of frustration for not being allowed to do anything, she throws it into space and it comes back and comes to life. Fine. There's really no explanation for this, it just happens, but whatever. We're barely 6 pages into the story, and we know very little about Eli, her personality, her wants, her desires. We have no connection to her whatsoever, but fuck it. Turn her into a knockoff girl. This just happens. The ball joins with her, creates a super suit, and she decides to go saving people just like that. This is where the kids' book style storytelling comes in, because this works fine if your target audience is a bunch of 5-year-olds. But if your target audience is young adults, which is how this story is billed, this shit makes no sense. Kwanzaa breaks one of the main rules of storytelling. Show, don't tell. You've got 80 pages, man. You can show us Eli's day-to-day life, how she struggles to keep her powers a secret, and maybe while at school, she sees the Negro Muerte video, panics, runs home, and has to cope with this. She could get into an argument with her parents over it, and run into the mountains, and then play out the scene of her throwing the metal ball. I literally just came up with a better idea off the top of my head. The problem, Kwanzaa, is that we're not invested in the character. You don't have to tell us everything about her, but we need to see her doing things in order for us to get invested. You can't just run down her backstory and then jump into her being a superhero. It just doesn't work. And neither does this fucking name Good Girl. Do you not realize what it sounds like to have a bunch of people saying to a teenage girl, "Good girl, thanks good girl. You're so awesome, good girl." It's patronizing. And it sounds racist. There's no way she would call herself that. She's more likely to call herself America's sweetheart than good girl. It's like you're talking to a fucking dog. Why would you pick that name? And then have the character call herself that? I could see if this was a white people. That would fit your motif that they're all racist. But why have her call herself that? It makes no sense. And it's racist. Anyway, she saves a bunch of people, apparently over the course of the night and the morning, so everything just happens in a couple of hours. Her dad gets suspicious and calls her from somewhere. Eli flies home from somewhere. Dad comes into her room, she's in the bed, he leaves, and she's back outside and then gets attacked by the house niggas. That's literally what they are, the Homeland Agency for Ulterior Soldiers, or House for short. Of course, Eli is so ultra powerful, none of them are a threat to her. At all. She walks through all of them, and when her dad shows up, Kareem comes out of nowhere to rescue her for some reason. They have this talk where they clown each other over their stupid code names, Good Girl and X. And then Eli says that she's on America's side and wants to show the world there's nothing to be afraid of with superpowered black people. And Kareem just can't handle being turned down by a femboy. What really threw me off here is that up to this point, Eli's personality has been that of a 6-year-old. When she gets her costume, when she's talking to the metal ball, Everything that she says makes her out to be a big kid. Then she meets Kareem and suddenly develops a vocabulary, and then quickly becomes a whiny 6-year-old when her dad checks her for disobeying his rules. No teenage girl is going to react like this. What bothered me though was this line where she says, "It's what Grandpa would have done." This is twice now that she's mentioned her grandfather, but we've never seen him, we've got no flashbacks with him, and we don't know why he's so important to her. She's only mentioned him 2 times, this time and when she put on the baseball cap that was apparently his. That's it. So Grandpa is supposed to be her Jonathan Kent. He's dead, but she learned all her morals from him. Well, why don't you show us that? Here's an idea. What if Grandpa wanted to see her use her powers to help people, and her dad was against it? What if that's why she calls herself Good Girl, because it was something Grandpa used to call her when she was a kid? What if throughout this entire thing she's been thinking, what would Grandpa want me to do? Even better, what if he just recently died, and this was something he really wanted to see her do, to show her powers and to help people? Again, off the top of my fucking head, better story. You can't throw information like this at people and think it's just gonna work. Think about Big Hero 6. We have to see Tadashi's relationship with Hiro in order to A. care that he dies, B. care that it affects Hiro, and C. understand why he created Baymax. We never get anything about their parents because that's not Hiro's motivation, but if it were his motivation, or Tadashi's, it would be in the film because we have to know to care. Jesus Christ, why don't you know how to tell stories? Why are you this bad at it? Why? How have you been around this many storytellers and not picked up the basics? 4-year-olds understand this point. They will do this without you ever explaining it to them. They will tell you about their character or whoever and then explain why they do stuff. But grown-ass Kwanzaa thinks he can just throw out a line on one panel in an 80-page book and just magically you'll fucking care. So then we find out that someone's destroyed a Higgs field development facility, and it's never explained why it's important. I mean, never. The only way you know why this was important is if you read the original series. The Higgs field is something white people can use to disrupt black people's powers and possibly even copy them onto themselves. You probably want to tell that to the reader, but instead it just shifts back to storybook propaganda. Eli goes on Helen, she works with the house niggas, she ends up becoming the first sanctioned superhero, and continues to save people. Then Katrina happens. I'm not kidding, a storm hits New Orleans, Eli goes to help, and then the white people hate her because she saved black people. For some reason they all forgot that New Orleans is mostly black, so most of the people she would save would probably be black. And you have to understand, this happens over 6 pages. She saves people for 3, and then everyone hates her for the next 3. She only saves black people, supposedly, and stopped a white celebrity from drunk driving because this is exactly how that happens. White folks just be getting in cars, chugging a whole 40 ounces and drive. Look at that face. I'm white. I'm a woman. My name is Heather. I can do whatever I want. It is nice though that you gave Miss Santos a cameo in your book. And apparently this is why people suddenly hate Eli. She saved too many black people in a predominantly black city and stopped a white celebrity from killing people. I know you think white people are petty, Kwanzaa, but never in the history of crackerdom have they ever been this petty. Never. And by the way, the tone just flips. It goes from full-on propaganda to explaining why the crack-ass crackers don't like her literally one page after the other like you combine 2 separate stories. So then there's another attack on the Higgs facility and the government sends House, but Eli's dad makes her go home. She decides to tap into the video feed using her little metal ball and watches what's going down and notices that the masked woman has the same symbol that appears whenever Eli uses the metal ball. She flies over to confront the woman, literally in seconds, and demands to know what the symbol means, why they have the same powers, and who she is. And of course, the woman says, I think you already know the answer. My name is Zion. Little sister. Wait for it. So Zion grabs her, and we find out that Zion and Eli are from the future, where black people have been enslaved, again, bred for their powers, and kept captive by a Junjutsu curse seal, technology that can kill them in an instant. Zion was about to be sent to war and Eli was birthmarked, whatever the fuck that means, when her parents decided to rebel. The father worked in the facility that had a device that could bend time, and he took his daughter there and threw them in because he and his wife thought anywhere in space-time was safer than being with them. The girls arrive in the past years apart, and after the Negro birthday, Zion, whose war armor that apparently got tossed in with her and still works, decides to destroy the Higgs field facilities to prevent their people from ever being enslaved again. So let me get this straight. Somehow, in the far-flung future, black people are not only still oppressed by evil white men, but enslaved. Again, and used for war. Toriyama called, he'd like his Dragon Ball story back. How does this work? I'm asking because the white folks don't have superpowers. With the Saiyans, Frieza was stronger than them. That's how he could control them. With the Super Negroes, they're the ones with the powers. So how were they enslaved? Better yet, how are they still enslaved? Zion and Eli damn near wrecked the planet in their fight. This is fucking Dragon Ball Battle on Namek level destruction. They literally fight in the Earth's core and come out basically fine. So how do you enslave these people? Yeah, I know you ripped off the Hyuga clan curse seal thing from Naruto, but you never explained how it works. These people are powerful enough to destroy planets, but folks with no powers can control them with some device or ultimate kill button? If that's true, how come their parents could use the time travel device no problem? You'd think that they would be trapped, otherwise there'd be no point in having the fucking kill button. So somehow 4 Super Negroes could go somewhere they weren't supposed to be, use a device they're not supposed to use, and no one notices this or tries to stop you? I mean, if you're gonna rip off Man of Steel, at least do it right. David Goyer had the sense to add drama to Kal-El being sent off by having Zod attack the house where Laura and Jor-El were trying to launch the ship. Hell, in the Terminator we're at least told by Kyle Reese that the Terminators try to stop him from going back in time. You, Kwanzaa, just have it happen like it's no problem. They just waltz in there, turn the machine on, and toss the kids in. Couldn't the white folks just use the kill switch and stop them? And if these folks were able to block out that signal, how come no one else figured out how to do it? If there's no signal to block, how come they don't just turn on the white people? I mean, the Super Negroes are ridiculously fast. They should be able to move faster than the non-powered white people. They could kill them before the white people could react. And why do they have families? I mean, these people appear to be engineered. Why are they placed in groups where they could form bonds with each other? Or are they apparently free enough to have families? Why? Who in their right mind will allow these superpowered beings to make babies? None of this makes any sense. I get it. You think it's clever to rip off Dragon Ball and Naruto and steal the ending from All-Star Superman and have this half-assed Man of Steel fight that has no impact because the Little Miss Perfect has even less of a reason to give a shit about our blood family than Superman did with the Kryptonians. But if you're gonna do it, you need to do it well. What you gave us is this convoluted backstory that makes zero sense, and you didn't need it. The story is already complex enough. You don't need to add in time travel in your second story, for no reason other than telling us that these Super Negroes are so powerful that their dumbasses get enslaved again by the Pinkskins. Are you sure these are black people? I know my people, we can be inept, but not this inept. Are you sure these is real niggas? I don't think these is real niggas. These are pretend niggas. Pretendigers. That's Pretendegers. That's for white folks who want to use it, but if you say it fast, it sounds right. Pretendigers. It'd be a shame if someone took one of your covers and put that as a title. I'm not saying anyone should do that. Do it. But it'd be a shame if they did it. You know you want to. So the Pretendiger sisters fight all over the world, and Kareem shows up only to get pimp slapped halfway across the world, which he survives because, like the girls, he's all powerful but apparently can't fly. He just conveniently forgets that he has super speed, so he's not stuck on the island, and he can develop powers at random, so he really should be able to fly. But no, he just screams, "Why can't I fly?" It's because you don't have the vagina. Only those with the vagina get to be all-powerful Little Miss Perfects who can't be hurt by anything, sucking all the drama out of the fight. I mean, the fight looks nice, the art is fantastic, there's really no problem there. Even Zion's motivations seem fine. She's been enslaved and she's pissed about it and doesn't want it to happen again, and she wants to protect her little sister. The problem is what happens whenever you have these kind of overpowered characters. There's no risk. They can't be hurt physically. They're pummeling each other, knocking each other hundreds of miles with each hit, and it's not doing shit to them. They're in the air, in space, under the sea, in the core of the earth. Still fine. So what's at stake here? What's the cost? A sister Eli knows nothing about? A future she knows nothing about? At least with Man of Steel, Clark would lose the last connection to Krypton, something he's wanted to know about his entire life. That doesn't exist for Eli. She has no mystery, no knowledge that she comes from somewhere else other than a general idea of being adopted. You can't hurt her, she has no connection to Zion, so she really has nothing to lose. But one thing Eli could lose, the public's appeal, she's already lost. The only other option is to go after her family, which Kwanzaa didn't do. He doesn't have Zion physically attack Eli's family. Instead, he has her call them Eli's handlers and talks about how they lied to her. There's no drama in that because Eli completely rejects it right from the start, so there's literally nothing worth fighting for, making the fight pointless outside of the arc. What makes it even worse is that the book just ends. Eli and Zion fight to a draw, they end up in the Earth's core, fight there, fly out, Zion, I don't know, burns up or passes out. Eli falls from space and ends up in a hospital, and then Kareem teleports in and decides he's gonna get his Naruto on with reverse Haku. That's it, that's the ending. I don't know what I just read. I have no idea. The tone shifts are insane, the story is just poorly handled. There are actually good ideas there that are wasted, and the things Kwanzaa copies, he copies poorly, stripping away all the things that make the concepts worth using. Here's an idea, dude. Steal, don't borrow. Don't just copy the concept because you think it's cool. That's no different than borrowing someone's jacket. You're gonna have to give it back. Steal it. Make it your own. Wear it the way you'd wear it as if you'd actually bought the damn thing. That's what you should have done here. Instead, you gave us yet another story where we know next to nothing about the main character, we don't really know her motivations, presented every white person as shady or evil, even Eli's father is basically a liar, for a good reason, but still a liar, and made the premise of the story look even dumber than before. If you let go of trying to preach about race and actually focus on getting your audience to care about the characters, you might be able to make this work. It just seems like you don't really want to do that. You're so message driven that you've lost the concept of storytelling. You need to sit down and ask yourself why these characters are doing what they're doing, and then you need to show that in the book. Go and read Hero of a Thousand Faces. Then read The Children of Hurin. Then go watch The Matrix, just the first one. Watch The Incredibles. Watch Batman Begins. Read the first volume of Naruto and My Hero Academia. Pay attention to the hero's journey and how all these characters are presented. If you want the audience to care about something, you have to establish it. You have to show us what this person's life is like, then show us a call to adventure, and then move on. If you want to have an important figure in that character's life, we're going to need to see scenes with them, either in linear storytelling or in flashback. You don't need a lot. Look at The Amazing Spider-Man. Just a couple of scenes at the beginning of the film with Peter and his father, and boom, you've established his connection with his dad, how he thinks about Uncle Ben, and why it hurts him so much when Ben is killed. He's lost 2 dads now, and he was very mean to the last one before he died. That, and basic storytelling skills, is what's missing from everything you've written. It's probably because you don't have anyone around you willing to be critical in the way I've just done. And if you think I'm being mean to you, no. This is how I talk to my friends about their stories. If it's silly, I'm going to clown you about it. If it doesn't work, I'm going to let you know. And I expect them to do the same. Make me a better writer by either only telling me what works, so if you don't have much to say, it means it's shit, or telling me what doesn't work and be honest. Clearly you don't have anyone doing that for you, unless Mark Waid is going to set aside his white guild and actually school your ass on how to write a story. But this universe you've built is not impressive. It's sad. It's from the mind of a guy who's ashamed of his race and can't let go of that silly need to prove his blackness. It's from someone who sees a real problem, but is so indoctrinated he isn't willing to explore all sides of that problem. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.